Well, David Lammy, who coordinated the letter, joins us now from North London. Very good morning to you, Mr. Lammy. Just talk us through, why did you decide to take this action?
Well, look, it's hugely important that the Windrush generation get clarity, and statements from the dispatch box, as wishful as they may be, is not that clarity. They need legal clarity. They need desperately to understand how the compensation is going to work. For example, if you are stuck in Jamaica, how are you to be compensated to actually get back when you've not been able to see your family or you've lost your job? They need to understand what the evidence is that they're now being asked to provide. I think most MPs believe that the burden should be extremely low. Amber Rudd has said it's based on a balance of probabilities, but their legal advisors need support to advise them, and certainly need to appeal any decisions if they don't feel that they're according to what their clients need. And the third thing, of course, is on the issue of enforcement. If you don't meet the burden when you provide this evidence, will you be removed from the country? So clarity is needed, and the best way to get clarity is speedy legislation in Parliament so that their futures can be secured.
Rather than targeting the Conservative government, would it not make more sense for you to work with them instead?
Well, look, I asked MPs to sign this letter to the Prime Minister, and I'm very pleased that Conservative MPs signed it. Green, Plaid Cymru, SNP and Labour MPs signed the letter. So it's a cross-party effort to ensure that the Windrush generation get the guarantees that they need. They know where they stand, and we move on from this situation where Amber Rudd is constantly coming to the House, making statements, but actually there is no guarantee, no legislation to back up what she's saying. There's a feeling that policy is being made on the hoof.
She has apologised. She said she's sorry. She's going to be speaking in the Commons tomorrow about the issue. Is that not enough? I mean, have you made mistakes as well in your life? Does that not go far enough?
Look, I think you've played some of the stories of the Windrush generation. People who've been imprisoned in our own country. People who've not been able to receive cancer care. People who've lost their jobs, and that situation has continued for years. This has happened to British citizens in our own country. Of course, Amber Rudd has apologised, and so she should. But the issue now is what guarantees, what safeguards, how can we be sure that this won't happen again? And that does need a statutory instrument in Parliament that we can vote through to give people the clarity and the security that they now need.
Do you think the government is institutionally racist?
Look, you've asked me that question so you can make headlines. It's for your viewers to make up their mind. I can't get into the mind of the governments. I do think, though, that if you're part of the Windrush generation, you do ask yourself why it's not Australians, Canadians, New Zealanders that find themselves in this situation. Why, in the end, it's Black, Caribbean, West Indian people that came over to build this country after the Second World War that find themselves in this horrendous situation. But I'm not standing here to cast around aspersions. I'm standing here because I finally want guarantees for that generation that gave so much and asked so little.
And if you will, just talk us through the impact it has had on so many of those people from the Windrush generation, the impact it has had on their lives and the stories that you are hearing.
Well, I think many of them are still frightened. They're frightened about being deported. Many now are coming forward. They've been embarrassed for years, nervous for years, gone underground for years. The stories are heartrending. I went to a funeral on Friday morning. I simply could not believe the reaction of Caribbean people. It was for a 6-year-old man that had died, and the reaction of these people was just to be in shock, really, that this could have happened in this country in this way. And obviously there is now some real anger that this situation has arisen, pain and hurt, I think, because it's just horrible to have questioning of your legal status 70 years after which the people first arrived here. And I think it is important to say also that the connection of this country to the Caribbean and the West Indies goes back 400 years. West Indian and Caribbean people are people who've been slaves and enslaved in the past, people who've been colonized. So this is painful and is bringing up old wounds, frankly, in the broader Caribbean and West Indian community.
Slightly off-piste, of course, but Brexit as well. Lots of EU citizens very worried about their immigration status. Do you think there are concerns with how the Home Office is going to handle that, given what has now come to light following the Windrush scandal?
I think that EU nationals are looking at this with real concern. They're going to get, I suspect, some guarantees in the coming months, but they're going to ask themselves, my God, if this can happen to Windrush, of course it can happen to us. People can change their mind, and very quietly, we too can be imprisoned or deported or told effectively that we're not allowed to remain in the country. So clearly it will impact on the EU negotiations as we go forward. And of course in Brussels, they're looking closely at this international embarrassment, really, for the British country. And I think also the public are looking now widely at how we treat immigrants in this country. A bigger debate is opening up about all sorts of nationalities, all sorts of people denied progress in the country in which they've lived for many, many years.
OK, David Lammy, thank you for your time.